Welcome to Naked Pixels. Short clips with advice from the Naked Texture Artist podcast, where my guests answer questions all artists struggle with. Enjoy. So, almost 20 years in, are there any magic shortcuts? Are there any things that you can sort of like travel back in the DeLorean time machine and tell a younger Adam back then and say like, come here, son. Let me tell you something. What advice would you give yourself when you're starting out? Or is there any advice that would matter much at all?
Honestly, I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but yes, I've got a few ideas. Probably limit noodling
Noodling.
is one.
What do you?
Yeah, I'm talking in context of like modeling or moving set dressing around in game engines. Like just
That sounds like a nice low stress activity where you can sort of feel like I'm doing something.
it is it's nice, but if you go in with a plan, you're gonna use that time much more wisely. You gotta try and avoid when working on personal projects, for example, like avoid that just thinking, oh, I have a hour, I'm gonna work on this asset for an hour. It's much better to just go in there knowing, having a goal of what you're going to do and making that decision in that hour. Like, this is it. I'm not going to mess around with that after this hour. This is the only hour I have left to do this.
I can see that. That sort of takes it much more into the realm of how we are working, basically, that everything has a time constraint and you better think good and hard about it before you start working, you know?
Because if you just spend, I don't know, say like 2 hours just trying to refine something, it's so often the case that if you just return to that same thing the next day, you'd figure it out in 10 minutes. Sometimes your brain's just not in the right place, but you try and just push on and just noodle, as I call it. The thing with noodling is that something that you're spending a substantial amount of time on could be done like so much shorter if you do it on a different day. And that could be due to a whole host of different reasons, right? Actually, it's the same as problem solving, where you just get hyper focused on the problem and you just want to fix it there and then so that you can relax. When so many times just walking away and doing it the next day, it solves itself so much more quickly. And again, that's due to a host of different reasons. Those could be anything from forgetting that there was a particular tool to realizing that you need more reference, and then when you find a reference, the solution's right there. Or it could be even that you just realize that now is not the time to be solving that issue, and then you go off and do something else. You create more pillars for another area of the map, and then when you return to the problem area, you can just use those pillars there, and that solves the issue. Or you continue evolving the map, you put lighting into it, and then you realize that that problem area that you were noodling on for 2 hours isn't even viewable, it's in shadow or whatever. So with long-term personal projects, I've just come to learn that it's better just to keep moving and to recognize if you're just hyper-focused on one particular problem or area. So it's good to try and learn to identify it, to recognize when you're in that state.
Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. We have a tiny bit of housekeeping to do on the way out. If this episode has been helpful to you, why not share the podcast with your colleagues and friends? If you'd like to support the podcast, I'd appreciate if you bought me a coffee. You can do that on Ko-fi. That is spelled ko-fi.com /The Naked Texture Artist, one word. If you have suggestions, comments, or questions, I'd love to hear them. Feel free to drop me a line on thenakedtextureartist@gmail.com. That is the Naked Texture Artist written out in all one word @gmail.com. As I mentioned, having a busy day job in visual effects means my release schedule for this podcast can be a bit irregular. So if you don't want to miss out, subscribe to the Naked Texture Artist wherever you get your podcasts. Or follow the podcast on the socials, then you'll be alerted when the next episode drops. The music in this episode was Awake by Tycho. Nick Sifoni helped put the sound together, and everything else was done by me, your host, Marque Pierre Sondergaard. Speak to you soon.